Welcome to the Touch MBA Admissions Podcast. Do you need help figuring out which schools to apply to or how to get into the world's top MBA programs? Hey, you're not alone. Join thousands of others on this podcast and on our site, touchmba.com, as they seek the admissions edge. And now, here's your host, Darren Joe.
What's up, guys? It's Darren. Welcome to the Touch MBA podcast. Yeah, let's go. Let's do this. Great to have you guys here as always. Episode 124. Oh my gosh, we're almost at 125. Hard to believe. But this week I brought on Katie Lloyd, who is the Executive Director of MBA Admissions at Georgia Tech's Scheller College of Business MBA program. You know, doing interviews like these are the reason why I enjoy the show so much. I think that most applicants, are looking at the Harvards and the Stanfords of the world, but there's so many neat MBA programs out there. And I think this Georgia Tech Scheller MBA is one of them. They offer a very interesting product in that, Georgia Tech has a really strong reputation in engineering and technology. And the MBA program offers students the ability to pursue these immersive tracks in things like technology commercialization, innovating for sustainability, business analytics, leading digital transformation, supply chain innovation, areas that I believe are going to become more and more crucial and more important in the economy. And for employers, they're going to be looking for more employees with these skills. And I think you'll learn a lot more about the program, not just the offering, of course, but the culture that Katie and her team are looking to attract and to build at Georgia Tech Scheller. So yeah, I really enjoyed this talk and I think you will too. At Touch MBA, we specialize in school selection help. So you can head over to touchmba.com and get some there you go. Free expert school selection help. You just need to tell us more about yourself and your career goals, and we'd be happy to help you there. We have a lot of guides and other podcasts and resources for you guys to shortlist programs you're applying to. So go check that out, touchmba.com. And I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsor who helps keep the show running. The IESE MBA in Barcelona is consistently ranked top 15 worldwide by the Financial Times. Do you want to challenge yourself and take your career to the next level? IESE's full-time MBA program will transform your capacity to think strategically, explore new perspectives, and be a leader in today's global world. The IESE MBA give us 19 months, and we give you a lifetime of impact. Get informal feedback on your profile at mba.iese.edu or visit us on campus at our open days. So yeah, thank you, IESE. Shout out to our sponsor there. And yeah, let's get straight to my chat with Katie Lloyd. Here we go. I'm really excited to interview our next guest, Katie Lloyd, who is the Executive Director of MBA Admissions at Georgia Tech's Scheller College of Business. Previously, Katie served in many senior admissions roles for Emory Gazetta's MBA program, and she has over 20 years of experience in the MBA space and admissions industry. So I think she's going to share a lot of valuable insights with us, and I can't wait to learn more about the Georgia Tech Scheller MBA. Katie, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be on the podcast. Really appreciate it. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Darren. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So the first question I ask all our school guests is, what makes the Georgia Tech Scheller MBA unique from all the other top programs out there?
Sure. Well, I think it's a combination of several factors. One, our physical location in Atlanta's Midtown area of Tech Square. That's a booming area here in Atlanta, and we feel very lucky to be kind of within a stone's throw of a lot of new businesses and corporate headquarters that are going in, as well as a lot of incubators and innovation centers that really truly are within walking distance of our building. We have about 18 to 20. The number keeps changing, but somewhere I think 18 to 20 is a safe range of new innovation centers that have opened in the past decade. And so it's very exciting. Companies like Delta, Chick-fil-A, AT&T, and then we also have NCRs opening their headquarters in a couple weeks just down the street. And then we are within walking distance of Coca-Cola. So we're in really dynamic, great area. I think we're also uniquely positioned at the intersection of business and technology. And I don't think a lot of MBA programs are necessarily talking about that positioning. And then in addition to that, we have a very close-knit, tight community, and we can talk about that more as we go on. Our career services and all of our staff is very dedicated to and very focused on the student experience, and so our students get exposure to career services even before they start the program, and are partnered with career coaches throughout their time here. So I think that that's pretty unique. And then also, I think our focus on applied learning and innovation through our practicums and immersive tracks, I think that those things all in combination make Georgia Tech a pretty unique place to study.
There's so much there to unpack that I'd like to unpack. Let's first start with your first point about being in Tech Square. I read a lot about it researching before this show, but one of the reasons I believe Tech Square was started was because it was in close proximity to Georgia Tech itself. And we have many international listeners. Could you just tell us more about Georgia Tech, the university, what its reputation is like within within Georgia and within the South and within the US? So a listener from Thailand perhaps could get a better idea of what Georgia Tech really stands for.
Sure. Well, Georgia Tech is, as an undergraduate institute, is a premier engineering institution.
Yes.
The top 10 engineering facilities are institutions in the U.S. They have one of the best biomedical engineering programs, very strong industrial engineering, computer science, mechanical engineering. And so that's the foundation upon which our program was built. And one of the great aspects of engineering is its focus on practical application. So I think that come through when we see what's going on in the business school and makes us a little bit unique. Also, Georgia Tech is seen as a premier research institute. So in addition to the academic opportunities that our students have, there's a lot of great research that's going on as well. And so our students, our MBA students, actually get to participate in some of that research. And one of those projects is called TIGER, which I don't know if you're familiar with TIGER, but it stands for Technological Innovation Generating Economic Results. And it's a popular initiative here that pairs MBA students with a PhD student's research. And the point is to work with that PhD student and their research to commercialize the product to hopefully take it to market. And so our 2 MBA students are paired with 1 PhD student, and then we also have 2 law students who are all working together to take that research from concept to market. And so that's an interesting interaction between the main institute and the business school. But there's several other things that go on like that too. So there's a lot of intersection between the great things that Georgia Tech as an institute is doing, as well as the business school. And to your point, Tech Square, we're just on the outskirts of campus. So we're part of campus, but we're on the outskirts.
Yes. Got it. And so the immersive tracks, I'd also like to unpack those. Those are, I believe, technology innovation, leveraging analytics, and leading digital. Is that correct?
Yes. So they're bucketed into 3 areas, and we have 8 different immersive tracks. The most recent that we've added, is supply chain innovation. So the 8 immersive tracks that we have are technology commercialization, which is the TIGER program, leading new ventures, innovating for sustainability, business analytics, computational finance, leading digital transformation, managing technology products, and supply chain innovation. So great innovation in the classroom. So what this does is it gives our students an option if they want to go beyond electives. So this is on top of the electives that you could take, or it's an extension of the electives that you can take. And it's a map or a path where you're taking an introductory course, an introductory elective course, and then you're taking a practicum course, which is pairing you with a real project that either a research group is working on or more typically a company that needs a solution to a problem they're working on. And then you're also taking at least 2 other electives that round out this immersive track. So it's really popular for our students who may want to who aren't coming from a technology background and want to move into that space. And so that allows them to go pretty deep into that subject area, but it's not required. But you could think of it as an optional path for our students or a map for our students to craft out part of their academic experience.
Got it. And which are the most popular ones at the moment?
Yeah, so Tiger, or the technology commercialization is very popular. Innovating for sustainability, we have a lot of students who, in addition to what they're planning to do in the short term with their MBA, they're thinking long term about sustainability and how best practices could be embedded in any type of organization. So a lot of our students are interested in that. Business analytics is tremendously popular here. And so we see a lot of students not only doing the immersive track, but working within our business analytics center. Outside of our building, we have a new 17-story building that's going in as we speak, and that will house half industry and then half Georgia Tech programs in computing and business analytics. So that's also a really interesting and popular place for our students to land during their time here.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, because you have these immersive tracks and you also have concentrations that you offer, how those play out in terms of students perhaps picking to choose one of those immersive tracks or concentrations in order to, switch industries or switch functions.
Right. So our students have the option to take 11 electives while they're here. And most of the concentrations, it's about 3 classes to have a concentration and at least 4 classes to have immersive tracks. So some of the electives overlap with the immersive tracks. And it's quite possible for our students to focus on an immersive track as well as have 2 areas of concentration or even sometimes 3 areas of concentration because of the flexibility of the curriculum. So it's pretty manageable for students to do that. And what they can do when they first arrive is they can work with their career coach. They also have an academic advisor and in tandem come up with a plan academically as to what will best help meet their specific interests as well as what their career goals may be.
That sounds great. And I can't wait to talk more about that career side a bit later on in the podcast. But is there anything else academically that you just wish more applicants knew about Georgia Tech Scheller MBA program?
Sure. So we front load our core curriculum into the first semester. So the majority of your academic classes requirements are being fulfilled in that first semester. We do have a required class in the second semester that is strategy. And so that brings all of the concepts that you learn in the first semester together. And the great thing about the strategy class is it's our first opportunity for students to take practicum classes. So each of the students will be working on a team project, and there are multiple projects within the class. And that's with a real company, real project, and you'll have real deliverables at the end of the semester. So it's a great way for our students to not only have practical experience in preparing them for internship interviews, internships over the summer, but begin building upon that experience that will take them beyond the academic experience in the program. And most of our students will complete the program taking about 3 to 6 practicum courses. And so I think it's giving them great talking points as well as great opportunity to have in-depth experience once they start either the internship or the full-time role. We do have one class that is international practicum that is an option for all of our students. And that happened in the spring of each year. And there are 3 countries where our students can choose to go. And in each of those countries, they're working on a real project with a client abroad. So that's a very popular academic option too. And again, those practicums are just wonderful, and very popular with the students.
how do you guys provide all these opportunities and practicums and immersive tracks and concentrations when you only have, a relatively small class of like 80 students a year?
That's right. So our students have a lot of opportunities, but we also have in addition to the full-time MBA program, we have an evening part-time program. And so there are shared resources between the faculties. Some of the courses, like the international practicum, are options that are available to our evening students as well. There are some electives that are offered in the 4:30 to 6 p.m. timeframe that are crossover classes between the two populations.
Yeah.
They're dedicated evening classes as well. So we do have a bigger program other than just the 80 to 90 students we're seeing coming into the full-time. And then we also have an executive MBA program. Now their classes are all together and they're not mixing with our students academically, but we are trying to create more opportunities for networking across programs. So for our veterans, for our women, for opportunities within careers, we are being very deliberate in harnessing that power of 750, 800 students within the program at any given time, or within all of our programs, to make it seem like a bigger program. But yes, so our full-time students have a lot of bells and whistles, but then they also have the having that bigger group surrounding them.
Yeah, because when I was working for a business school, my program had 60 students, and I know how difficult it is to marshal all those resources for a relatively smaller class. And so I think that's a really great opportunity for your students. I was wondering, why else you think applicants should get their MBA in Atlanta, when there's other great cities in the U.S. to study at?
Well, I've been living in Atlanta for almost 22 years now. So it's my adopted hometown. And I love it. From a place to study to a place to live, it's very affordable. The weather is great. We have 4 seasons here, but it's pretty mild throughout the year. So I think that's appealing to a lot of people who may be relocating. The access to companies from being able to study in an environment where you truly walk out your door and you're within 100 yards, 200 yards of corporate headquarters is just tremendous. We have a lot of guest speakers who are always coming on campus. We have the projects and the practicum classes that are very accessible, the incubators, the innovation centers. Atlanta is just, when I moved here, right about the time of the Olympics in 1996,
yes,
there's this counter, this sign that counts the population within Atlanta, and it was about 3.5 million people. I drove by there recently, and it's on one of our famous roads, Peachtree Street, and it was over 6.5 million people. So the city is growing so much, and there's so much excitement around the city. There's new pockets of neighborhoods developing. We have something called the Beltline, which is a trail that people can run or ride on that goes throughout the city that connects restaurants and shops and some of our civic centers. And so it's a really exciting time to be in Atlanta, and just the food here is amazing. So it's a tremendous city, and it's a very friendly city. So I think for international students who are thinking about what it's like to live in a big city, for a big city, this is a really safe and a really friendly city. So I'm a huge fan, and I can't imagine living anywhere else.
Yeah, I've still never been to Atlanta. It's on my list. Yeah, I really need to come. So where do the MBA students live? Do they live close to campus?
Yeah, so what we do for our students, once they're admitted, we have a digital map that shows the location of where all of our students, kind of which regions they live in. And most of our students live within walking distance of our building. So there are a lot of apartments and communities, and for our students with significant others, there's family housing. So it's pretty easy to find housing in the area. And if not, we are on what the public transportation, which is called MARTA here. We're located right in between 2 MARTA stops. So even if people didn't want to necessarily live right in this area, we're easily accessible by public transportation. So people can choose to live really anywhere and take the train to campus if they wanted to. But I would say most of our students live within a couple of blocks. There's a lot of great places. The park, Piedmont Park, is just down the road from us, so people like to run and hang out in the park, and a lot of great restaurants. And so it's a great place to live in and go to school.
And last question about the program. When did the MBA program start at Georgia Tech?
So we became an MBA program in the early 2000s.
Oh, it's really? Yeah, I didn't know that. Yep.
Well, we've had the business school for a lot longer, but it used to be what was called an MSM, or Masters of Science in Management. And it became the MBA. I believe it was in 2002, 2003, right around that time. And then we became the Scheller College of Business in 2012. So we've gone through some changes and some name changes. But yes, we are officially the Scheller College MBA as of 2012, and we've had the official MBA since, at least for 16, 17 years now.
Fantastic. Let's move on to the admissions part of the chat. Yeah. So, I mean, I know you were at Emory Gazetta for a long time. What do you think? What is the DNA that you're looking for, right? From a great Georgia Tech MBA applicant? I'm just wondering, what are those sort of fit qualities that you're really looking for from applicants?
Sure. Well, there are a number of things. First, I think, as we've discussed, we are a smaller program, so we have a high expectation of our students being engaged while they're here. And we don't necessarily prescribe the engagement, but we want you to, help recruit new students. We want you to be involved in activities and organizations and clubs, and we want you to take on leadership positions. And so we'll look for that in the application and for candidates who are able to move us forward. We do place a high emphasis on what your career goals are within the program. And you do not have to have a tech background, nor do you have to be thinking about going into technology once you're finished with the program. We have a wide range of paths that our students do follow, but we do pay a lot of attention to the experiences that you'll bring and the focus that you'll bring to what you hope to achieve next. We also have a lot of students who are, I say, intellectually curious, and so we try to perpetuate that with each class that we bring in. We also talk about how kind and humble our students are here, and so when we are meeting with candidates or reviewing applications, we want candidates who will work well with others, who will be collaborative, who will approach problems, with the focus on, this is what we're trying to accomplish together. And so I think we do a pretty good job. The student community is very cohesive, is very warm, celebrates diversity. They celebrate each other's victories, small and large. Actually, today is one of my favorite traditions. As we speak, it's called the bell ringing day. And so for all of our students who have secured full-time positions as of right now, I should be able to hear it through the wall soon, but they ring big ship bell, and they bring in their family members, and they bring in their classmates, and they ring the bell, and we take lots of pictures, and we celebrate those victories. So it's a great place, and we want candidates who are going to bring that spirit of celebration and spirit of diversity and innovation and hard work to our program.
Okay, I have to unpack some of those. So in terms of career goals, right? You said your program does place an emphasis there that you're looking for focus. How much focus are you looking for? Like, does an applicant need to know, for example, like what industry and what function they want to be in, where they want to work? Or, I was just wondering, like, how specific do you expect their career vision to be in their essays and when they meet you for interviews?
So our career services director, Jim Cranches, who is awesome and amazing and just terrific resource for the students, if he was here, he would tell you that the majority of our students will change careers or switch careers from what they said during the time of the application, which used to scare him but does not scare him now. So what we're looking for now, though, is the experiences that you've had and the skills that you're bringing. Can you envision a path that makes sense to when coupled with the MBA that are is it attainable for you? So for instance, within technology, there are some companies who will look for specific technology experiences that candidates will bring. And so for candidates who are going to be very focused in that area, there will be some specific skill sets that we'd like to see. For consultants, it's a wide range of skills that they're bringing. So good problem solving skills, good communication skills. For brand, we have a lot of students who will go into brand management and marketing. And so what have you done that would be transferable into that space if you don't have those skills already? So no, you do not necessarily have to have it completely figured out, nor do you necessarily have to have a skill set that is exactly matched with what a career may be looking, or an employer may be looking for once you're finished with the program. But we do need to see how well thought out the MBA is to your next step and what you think you can achieve with the combination of the MBA. So again, it's not necessarily only one path once you're finished,
right.
But if you can identify a couple or be a little bit more specific than I want to go into a large company, that I've seen candidates write that, and that's a little too broad. But if you could say, I plan on working either in a strategy role within an organization, or I'd like to pursue a consulting, or I'd like to work in product management for a technology company. Those are some of the areas that we tend to see that makes sense when looking at the context of what a student will bring.
Yeah, and I noticed that your career services staff also take part in the interviews sometimes, right?
They do.
And so, you mentioned on your site that we listen to your career aspirations and have a very open dialogue with you about reaching your goals through our program during the interviews. So, yeah, if we could focus on the interview part, what sort of questions are you asking in those interviews? And is it a pretty rigorous back and forth about, career goals and where you see yourself contributing to the program? How does that interview work?
So our interview process is probably a little bit different than most processes at other MBA programs. So we have two people who conduct the interview typically. One is usually a staff member, so it'll be a member of either the leadership team here, the associate dean, the senior associate dean, or myself, Jim in the Career Center, or one of his team members, or one of the admissions team members. So one of those individuals will be coupled with a student, a current full-time student, who's been specifically selected and trained to be a part of the interview. So between the two interviewers, we're trying to assess the career fit as well as the engagement fit. And the current students are helping us with the engagement piece of that. And so they'll probably be asking questions about how the candidate might see themselves here at Scheller and contributing to Scheller, and what types of clubs and organizations they would like to be a part of. And then we're also focusing on, indeed, the career aspects, what experiences they've had to date. I would say most of our interviews are going to feel very conversational in nature. Mm-hmm. They're not going to be high-stress interviews. Yeah. They shouldn't be high-stress interviews, because I think most people, when they get in, they're like, wow, I really enjoyed that experience. And I would say that's probably typical for most of our interviewers. At the end, people do feel that way.
That's great. That's great insight into that process. And you mentioned another thing you're looking for, in addition to engagement and career goals and intellectual curiosity, is that collaborative, celebratory nature, right? Of kind of being part of this group. Do your cohorts take all the classes together, like 80 students in one class? Like, I'm just wondering how that works, and like how much teamwork there is, and how that would actually play out throughout the program.
Sure. So our cohort, our incoming students are divided into two cohorts. So the classroom size will be between 40 and 45 for each of the cohorts. Some of the electives will really vary as far as the size of the class. And but most of our students are interacting with, we have a lot of fun activities like our crawfish boil in the spring that brings everyone together. We have tailgating parties surrounding our football games. We have intramural sports. We have clubs and activities. We have a geography bee and a spelling bee and weekly.
A spelling bee?
Yeah, we have a spelling bee. Yeah.
Oh, wait, so you have to explain to our listeners why there's a spelling bee and a geography bee. Why so many bees?
Well, so we are the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. I'm not sure if that's where it started from or not. But
I was just guessing. Yeah.
Yeah. Our students like trivia and they like games and they like fun things like that. And so this was a tradition that started long before I arrived. And so the geography bee just occurred last month. I actually got to MC it, which was a lot of fun. And we had one student who was originally from China and had been a geography champion in China.
Oh, gosh.
So he ended up getting a perfect score at the end to win the title. But I will see the spelling bee this year to see how that compares. But I think our students are competitive in that way. So while they're helping each other in the classroom, they're bringing it out in the bees.
Yeah.
So anyhow, but it's a lot of fun, and the spelling bee is a great way, and the geography bee it's more of a social event really than a competition.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
And and I also have to ask you about your second essay where you ask applicants to tell 10 facts that will help their future classmates get to know them. And, I think this is often a challenge, right, for applicants because it's a very creative question. It's something where they can be more open and be a little more like less unbuttoned, quote unquote. But I was wondering, any tips you had there because, maybe someone listening to this podcast might say, oh, well, she's looking, the admissions team is looking for intellectual curiosity. Do I have to say that, I read geography atlases for fun or something, or, trying to get onto your good side. So maybe, you could give some tips on that essay in particular.
Yeah, so this is a new essay that we just launched this year. And I was just reading applications yesterday, and I was really enjoying the addition of this because it really gives us a unique insight into students and really it's a fun essay. And so we really want students to have fun with it. It does not need to be serious. It doesn't need to, some of the great things that I've seen are places people have traveled, experiences that they've had, contests they've won, significant other. Someone was talking about how they met their significant other. I thought that was a creative addition I hadn't seen before. Some of them just talk about things that they're passionate about, and that's really where we want this to go. I mean, obviously, there is an additional essay if you feel like you haven't had the opportunity to perhaps bring in something more serious. That would be the time to take 5 or 6 lines to address that. But really the 10 interesting facts, make them fun, make them different, make us understand truly what makes you you. So.
That's great. And last question. What else can applicants do to improve their chances of admissions at Georgia Tech Scheller? Sure.
So I think there are a lot of things. One, research the program, know what we're about. I think that's, as we've discussed, we're a pretty unique program. If you could see yourself here, then when you're applying, make sure that you presenting a competitive application. So we post our 80% GMAT ranges. I think anybody who falls out, outside of the bottom part of that range really should think about taking the GMAT again. We do, when we do have lots of scholarships and fellowships that we award. But I think for candidates to be considered in that realm, you want to have at least the median, if not well above the median, to be considered for that. And then just being honest and true to yourself when you're providing this information, and to the point about the 10 interesting facts, really do make it about you. And there's not anything, I promise you, there's not anything that we're looking for. It just, we want you to be honest and share information about you that makes you uniquely you. So I think that's probably the best thing. So make sure that you're looking at what our requirements are, that you fit or exceed those requirements, and then understanding the type of program we are and how we can get you from where you currently are to that next step.
Yeah, that's crystal clear. And I want to circle back to scholarships, but let me just clarify. So the applicants don't need to have an engineering background or tech background or engineering goals or tech goals to apply to Georgia Tech.
Absolutely. You can bring any type of background into the program. Only about, it varies from year to year, but I would say about 30 to 50% of our students come from an engineering background. And the next most popular area is business. But then beyond that, we have architects and teachers and scientists and people who have worked in nonprofits and people who've worked in the medical field. So it's a very diverse group coming in. You don't need to have a specific background and don't need to focus on technology. Absolutely, 100%.
Got it. And is there a minimum? I really appreciate your candid comments on the GMAT. Is there a minimum quant percentile you're looking for from applicants?
So I would say 50% is the general guideline, but it can vary if your overall score is higher and the quant may be a little bit lower than that, but you're bringing strong IR or certifications or undergraduate experiences that can speak to your quantitative rigor, then that's fine. We also do take the GRE, so it's about 20 to 30% of our students will submit the GRE. We have a couple of dual degree programs, so it tends to, our number of students submitting the GRE is a little bit higher perhaps than some other programs. But so either way, I would say 50% on either the GRE or GMAT is what I would shoot for at a minimum.
Great, fantastic. In terms of scholarships, like you mentioned that 50% of your class gets scholarships.
I would say at least, yeah.
At least. Oh, even better.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily all are receiving full fellowship. Sure. So we have funding that comes in two different ways. One is called GRA positions, so graduate research assistant positions. And those positions are either half tuition scholarships plus a requirement to have 7 hours of work committed to the school, or a full tuition.
7 hours per week?
Yes, per week. Yes, thank you. Yep, 7 hours per week, or and that's partial half tuition scholarship. And then the other option is 14 hours per week, and that's a full tuition scholarship. And then the third option that we have is just some fellowship money that does not necessarily come attached to a GRA position. The benefits of the GRA positions are, one, you do get a small stipend in addition to the tuition that waivers that you're being provided. You also get to have real experiences within the school. So some of our GRAs are working with faculty and they're teaching. Some are doing research. Some are working within our office. Some are working on analytics projects. Some are working with marketing. So we're trying to match students with what their skill sets are, what their ambitions are, and they really do contribute to the advancement of Georgia Tech. And so it's a win-win for everyone. But I would say about 2/3 of our students between the GRA positions as well as the funding not attached to the GRA positions are receiving some type of award.
That's fantastic. So the GRA positions, like, do applicants have to mention that in the online application, or where would they tell you kind of what they're interested in so you guys could know where to match them up?
Yeah, so there's a box on the application that you can check if you're interested in receiving financial assistance. Although I will say, even if you don't check that box, you're automatically considered. If you apply by round 3, I would say you're automatically considered. We do place more emphasis in applying in the earlier rounds, round 1 or 2, to have more flexibility to be considered for the funds. But round 3 candidates should be fine too. We just it's not as much of a guarantee as you move further in the process to be considered.
Right. So, okay. So they just have to check a box. There's not like, for example,
Nope.
a secondary essay or something.
There is not.
Oh, that's great. And yeah, I mean, any other tips aside from knocking that GMAT out of the park, if possible, in terms of how they could improve their chances of winning those fellowships?
Well, I think it's the work experience component. So most of the students who are coming into our program have between about 3 and 7 years of work experience, as is typical with most MBA programs, competitive MBA programs. So I think, if you're on the lighter side of that, and you're thinking about applying to an MBA program, you really need to have a stronger undergraduate record and a stronger GMAT score to balance out those few years of work experience. Typically, not in every case, but I would say help position yourself most competitively. But I also think you could, if you make the case for why coming back to school at 3 years makes sense, you've hit a ceiling, you can't advance, you know specifically what you want to do, then coming back with just 3 years. But I would say other than that, you want to make sure that you're really explaining your work experience and the contributions that you've made to that organization and how you would make a contribution to Scheller. So those are the things that I would focus on, in addition to making sure that your GMAT's aligned with either the averages or exceeding the averages.
All right, that's crystal clear. Now, if we could shift our focus onto careers. So,
Sure.
I've done a lot of these interviews, and I think Georgia Tech Scheller, your website, is one of the few that actually lists out all the Career Services Center staff. I don't think I've actually ever seen that. And yeah, I was wondering, if you could tell us more about how that Career Service Center, how those people can really help your students.
Sure. Well, I've never, in my experience in the industry, heard of a career staff so beloved than this staff. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, they really care about the students tremendously and build these coaching relationships with them that go well beyond their time here in the MBA program. And so I think they've developed these relationships that just mean a lot to the students as well as to the staff. And so I think that's one really unique thing. But as far as kind of the mechanics of it, they start working with the prospective students over the summer, the admitted students over the summer. So usually in June, they get a career coach assigned to them, and that career coach will start reaching out to them and helping them work on their resume, starting to listen to what their goals are. And then when they arrive a couple months later in August for orientation, they've already had several points of contact with their career coach, and they meet with their career coach early on once they arrive in person. And then they have, during orientation, about 20 to 30 hours of workshops to help them get prepared for the recruiting season. And then it just really goes on from there. They're giving them coaching about LinkedIn presence. They're giving them coaching about interview skills. If they're going through the case-based interview process, then they're getting specific training for that. They're bringing in a lot of outside experts. We have a peer coaching program. So there's a lot of things that are built in to help our students be successful. But I think to me, what really sets this program apart, or this experience apart, is how much the career team cares. And it really comes through when you hear the students talk about how truly they love their career coaches. And it makes it, I don't know, just a really great part to be a part. It's great to be a part of something like that. So.
No, absolutely. Because I think no matter what business school you go to, I think students are always complaining about career services. So
right, I don't see that here. It is. I was shocked.
Yeah, exactly. It's very shocking to hear that students love the Career Services Center. That sounds fantastic. And so each student has a dedicated career counselor.
Coach.
And so, compared to other business schools, how do you think Scheller or Georgia Tech Scheller MBA graduates are uniquely positioned to enter the marketplace? What's the kind of reputation of your program? What's the reputation with employers?
So I think as we talked about the screening process for admissions, we're looking for students who work well with others, who don't have egos, but who are confident. And so I think when you couple that with the experiences they're bringing prior to the program, their problem-solving skills, their communication skills, coupled with what they're experiencing here through the immersive tracks, through the curriculum, through the practical application, through the practicum classes, the real projects that they worked on, I think our students are, when they're hired into a company, one, it's people they want to work with. It's two, they can get the job done. They're not afraid. At Georgia Tech, there's this expression that goes around like roll up your sleeves and get the work done. And I think that is something that our students really embrace. And I think that companies in turn embrace that. So yeah, I think that's their ability, not only their intellectual capability, but their ability to work with others, and how they go about caring about people. I think that it's a win for our employers because it's a very well-rounded candidate who they're getting. A neat thing that we do here, and I don't think many business schools do that, at least in the U.S., is we provide a core class in technology. And so even if our students don't go beyond that initial core class, at least they're having exposure to technology principles and the management of technology that really no company can separate itself from these days. And so I think our students are having that great foundation. Most of our students are taking at least one class beyond, but they could choose not to. So I think they're positioning themselves pretty competitively in the marketplace too because of that initial foundation they're receiving if they don't have the experience prior.
And how active are your alumni with MBA program?
Yeah, so that's actually a new initiative for us, or a rather, I would say, an initiative that we're giving more energy to right now. We hired someone last year to help us do more outreach to alumni. Our alumni are very engaged socially and from a network standpoint when we have activities. But we're trying, we just launched our first alumni newsletter. We're developing a lifelong learning series for our alumni. We're putting some more processes in place that allow alumni to engage with us on the road, not necessarily just here in Atlanta. And I think that we're going to see more and more coming from that space. But our alumni are very dedicated and have been asking, what else can we do? And so now we're finally in the position that we can say, here are some things that you can do and how you can remain involved. So that's definitely an opportunity for us, but we're positioned well to be capitalizing on that in the next few years.
And where are most of your alumni based? And I mean, I would guess that most of your graduates stay close to Atlanta, or is that not true? Like where kind of geographically are your networks?
Our students come from all over the world to attend the MBA program. They do fall in love with Atlanta. It's an affordable city. It's, as we've already talked about the merits, it's a terrific city in which to live. A lot of great opportunities are presented to the students here locally. I would say outside of Atlanta, the West Coast, we're sending a lot of students or graduates to Seattle and to the Bay Area. That's probably the next most popular place for them to go. Certainly some to the Northeast as well. But I'd say Atlanta and then West Coast are probably the two most popular areas post-graduation.
Got it. Yeah. And I saw that for your class of 2016, 40% of your grads went into the consulting industry, and other top industries include like technology, financial services, transportation and logistics, and consumer products. And I was wondering if that stays relatively consistent, or you expect that to stay relatively consistent over the next couple of years, or do you see any trends up or down in any of those industries?
Well, yeah, so that's a great question to ask the market, right? But I think, students do like the consulting path. I think that brand strategy, product management, our students are doing really well based on some of the practical experiences they have here in securing those positions. And so I think we'll continue to see that. Supply chain and operations has always been a strength of Georgia Tech and of this program. So I think we'll continue to see that. Finance, we do see students pursuing that path. And again, technology, as you mentioned, we discussed 20% of our students. it's so hard to know how to really define technology, right? So it could touch a lot of different things. It could be that they're going to start up. It could be that they're going to work for Microsoft. It could be that they're going to work in IT consulting. It could be that they're going to work in IT strategy for a major corporation. So it could be a lot of things. I think that we will probably continue to see that grow just because that it has such long arms. But, I think all the traditional MBA paths that most MBA students are seeking will continue to see that steadily move along as well.
That's great. And what is the best way for applicants to contact students and alumni to learn more?
Yeah, so it's pretty easy on our website. We have alumni and student profiles as well as ambassadors from each group. And so if they can't find it easily, they can just type in ambassador and it'll pull up the list of student and alumni ambassadors, and they can just click on those individuals and reach out to them directly. Or if they're having a hard time, they can certainly reach out to someone in our team and we can connect them directly as well.
Fantastic. I'll be sure to link to that in the show notes of this episode. And does the admission office offer pre-assessments?
So we do consultations. So you can just schedule that by phone or you could come in person. We do offer that as an option or through email, whatever works easily. We won't do necessarily the send me your resume, send me your test scores, let me know if, we won't say you'll be admitted, you won't be admitted, right. But we do give you kind of consultation on the program and your overall fit with the program, but not necessarily on admission. Got it.
Overall fit. So, I think, not many top U.S. programs offer that sort of service. So I think that's great that you guys do that. And so, I'll be sure to link to that as well. And gosh, I've learned a lot about the program. I feel like I have a much better feel for it. But is there anything else about the Georgia Tech Scheller MBA that you just wish more candidates knew about?
Yeah, I think just revisiting that you don't need to have a technology background, nor do you need to have technology aspirations to be successful here. I think that's one of those. But if you do have aspirations and you are focused on that area, we do that very well. So I think through the immersive tracks, through the practical application and the practicum courses, through the support that you'll receive in the Career Services Center, I think that you're well positioned to pursue that type of path. And really kind of just going back to the ideal student, and that is one who's kind and warm and smart and hardworking and wants to have fun too. I think that's because we are a SPO program, no one hides. And so we really are deliberate about creating that culture. And so I think we've hit upon most of the topics that are the highlights. I'm sure there's a lot more, but.
Great. Well, that actually sparked something in me. If I could take a step back and ask you one more question, kind of on a more like philosophical basis, like where do you see Georgia Tech Scheller evolving in the next, say, 5 years? Because I think, your program seems like it's in such an interesting competitive space right now that I believe will only continue to grow in terms of things like business analytics, technology, supply chain, product management, consulting, obviously, in these areas or other areas. Like, I'm just wondering what your kind of personal vision is for where the program could move and what you're excited about.
Well, our leadership team talks about this all the time, and we really feel it is Georgia Tech's time to shine. And everything that's been kind of building up over the past few years, we are really well positioned to be the MBA program for the 21st century, I think. Mm-hmm. From the practical application to the technology to the business analytics, everything that the world is moving towards, we are already there and we're doing well and we're continuing to do better and better. And so I think for students who are looking for that innovative program and who are looking for that cutting edge experience, Georgia Tech does provide that.
Yeah. Well, Katie, thanks for this chat. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, likewise. And if you're ever in Atlanta, come visit. We'll take you to some of our great restaurants here.
Yeah, just don't enter me in the spelling bee. I perform miserably. So
you're safe. I'll duly noted.
Thank you so much, Katie.
Okay, have a good day.
Thanks for listening to the Touch MBA podcast. Don't be shy. We have a mailing list. Go to touchmba.com and get yourself signed up. And we'll keep you posted with the best tips and insider interviews on how to get into your number one school. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook at Touch MBA. See you soon.